I need to get better. Hello humans, I'm Yoshiller, and welcome back to another episode of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Road to Sakurai! So although my Smash content has been infrequent as of late, I've actually been playing quite a fair share of Smash Ultimate in my own time. The truth of the matter is that between collecting 900 Korok Seeds in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, editing videos for Gerard the Completionist, and attending E3, I've just been putting Smash content on the back burner. But the point of this series is to document my progress toward one day meeting the creator of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, Masahiro Sakurai. And am I any closer to reaching that goal than I was in the previous episode? No, not at all. In fact, I've made quite the discovery. I'm not that good at this game. I'm not trying to be modest either. I guess I can generally defeat a casual player at this game, but if I play against a player that has even the slightest clue as to how a character can be played and what a character can do, then I'm completely clueless as to what I should do. I suppose that my biggest accomplishment as a competitive Super Smash Bros. Ultimate player thus far is that I got my 3 main characters into Elite Smash. And I can barely even keep them in that ranked mode. The Wild West days of Smash are pretty much over. Yeah, we've got some more DLC characters along the way, but at this point, people have figured out how to play each character in the game, and I've fallen behind. I don't know how to counter pretty much any overplayed move or spam projectile. Some players just have so much control over their characters and they can play so fluidly and comfortably, and how do I get to that point? I want to reach that level of comfort. For example, look here. This Palutena player is just spamming that explosive flame attack over and over. I know she's gonna keep using that move, and yet I just don't know what to do against it. I'm sure if this match were being played live on a Twitch stream, I'd have a lot of people yelling at me saying, just do this and just do that, but in the moment, I don't know what to do. I still tried to make it a close fight all the way to the end, and the only thing that was really allowing me to get in close was spamming my side B. And eventually, well, Palutena finished me off using that explosive flame move. Yeah, it's so obvious what other characters should do, but I don't know what I should do. Here, let me visualize it. You know how some people like to make those tier lists? Yeah, well, my tier list looks like this. The truth of the matter is that there's just no matchup against which I feel completely confident, or even close to completely confident. Every single character has that one move that completely floors me, and I guess that, in terms of game balancing, I have to give a lot of credit to the development team for making each character useful. But for every time I pull off a cool stunt like this, I get bodied like this. And that needs to change. I need to be more confident as a player. I shouldn't be nervous all the time. It's not even a matter of stage fright. I just genuinely don't know what to do in most scenarios, and I need to figure out what to do. So, for today's video, I'm gonna review some general advice that Smash players have given me, and I'm gonna assess each of my 3 main characters, Yoshi, Ice Climbers, and Little Mac, to see if there are individual things that I can do to put their tools and assets to better use. Over Over the past few months, I played Smash and practiced in a few different ways. I played a few matches while I attended events such as PAX East and Versus Expo, and I played a few matches with friends from time to time while I'd wait for a video to process on my computer. And I'll still play some goofy matches with my friends just about every weekend, so I wouldn't necessarily call myself rusty at Smash. And I've been trying to watch more professional players play too, and I've been especially trying to tune into matches where characters that I play are used. Admittedly, I don't really know if I'm absorbing too much information from watching these matches, as I sometimes feel like the tactics that these players use are the same tactics that I already know how to perform. The real thing that I should be learning is when to use these tactics rather than how to use them. But I figured that watching professional players play counts as practice, right? I don't know, I'm just trying to learn, okay? Anyway, the point is, I've been playing a decent amount of matches each week. While my main method of practicing this game has come from hours of playing online, I acknowledge that playing online is not necessarily the best way to learn and improve my playstyle in this game. So, I've been attending a weekly tournament known as Wednesday Night Fights. And while I haven't been attending it every single week, I've attended it enough times to where I feel pretty okay with calling myself a regular attendee. I've played on their main stream a couple of times, and I've definitely learned a few things from attending the event. But with that said, my best win-loss record is 2-2. And I still have yet to make it past the second round in a Wednesday night fight tournament. Different players have given me different tidbits of advice. Naturally, certain pieces of advice can be easy to say, but difficult to implement. And some pieces of advice suggest that I alter my playstyle altogether. But on the flip side, I've received multiple pieces of advice that seem to contradict one another. And then I start to wonder if applying certain pieces of advice will just make me a more predictable player than I already am. I guess that's the greatness of Smash. Everyone has these different philosophies as to what makes a player good, and they all want to tell me what would make me better. But some philosophies just fly in the face of one another, and I just don't know where I should end up. However, there does seem to be one big piece of criticism that I've been hearing from players that have practiced with me. These players seem to agree that, when I play a competitive match, I have a good understanding of basic fundamentals, but I'm terrible at mixing things up. I can typically bait my opponents with projectiles, and I know how to keep away when I'm close to losing a stock, but I'm terrible at finding ways to approach my opponents and land attacks without them immediately fighting back. I'm terrible at making my way back onto a stage when an opponent is edgeguarding me, and I'm terrible at finding the right opportunity to land a kill move. I'm terrible at reacting to open opportunities, and I'm terrible at performing character-specific combos. I rely on the same attacks over and over and over, and by the time I try to mix things up, my opponents are already so close to winning the match that I don't know what I should do. The main thing that's been saving me in tournaments thus far is either the fact that my opponent may not be super experienced with the game, and or that I meant to do one attack, hit the wrong button, and wound up using an attack that was actually more useful. My ability to improvise and try new things in this game is extremely inadequate, and I acknowledge that there are a dozen things that I can improve as well, but let's start with this topic. I'm terrible at mixing things up. After about a minute of playing against my opponents, they'll know my every move and I won't know any of theirs. Thus, I think some sort of change in my mentality and playstyle is appropriate. Before I can even start focusing on my opponents, I have to focus on myself. So, let's go over some things that I can do to try and improve my results. Okay, criticism time. There's a lot of criticism, so just as a heads up, if I don't follow a specific piece of criticism, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to be ignorant or that I think I'm above the critique. I'm gonna attempt to go over each big critique as I can, but I'll see if I can apply anything accordingly. First up, the big one is typically, just pick a better character. Which begs the question, why don't I just drop my characters and pick a top tier character or something? Well, I discussed this general idea in the first episode of this series, but I chose my mains based on the history that I've had with each of them. While Yoshi, Ice Climbers, and Little Mac have stuck around mainly because I enjoy their playstyle, I chose to play as them in the first place because of the little stories that I have with each of them. I won't simply choose to play as a character simply because he or she ranks highly on a tier list. Granted, there are some characters that I've considered adding to my main list, such as Richter and Isabelle, and they wound up not joining the team mainly due to me not completely liking their playstyle in conjunction with the characters that I already play. In addition to having a playstyle and flow that is in sync with the way that I play, the character needs to have some sort of connection with me too. If anything, I want to be the person that can show that Yoshi can be a top tier character. I don't just want to pick him because he might be top tier. On the contrary, the other critique that I may get is to just stick to one character and drop everyone else. People have told me to drop Ice Climbers and Little Mac and just stick to Yoshi. And while it's debatable that Yoshi is the most viable character of the three characters that I play, I like being able to have some backup characters in case I want to try out some different strategies in a tournament. From what I understand, most pro players would recommend having a backup secondary character anyway. Yeah, some players just stick to one character and become the best with that character, and many other players will play as multiple characters. And I think that in a game with 80 plus fighters, sticking to just one character is kind of close-minded. I've personally leaned toward playing multiple characters, but there's a reason I've limited my mains to just 3 characters for now. If I were to play like 7 or 8 characters, then I'd understand the criticism, as that would be pushing it and I wouldn't really get to improve with any of them. But I feel like limiting myself to 3 characters is a best of both worlds situation. I have backup options, and it's a small enough number to where I can actually focus on each individual fighter in a specific setting. So okay, if I'm gonna play as 3 different characters, why don't I just learn the recommended matchups? Yeah, that's actually a fair point. I have nothing against that. I really should learn character matchups. Ideally, any character should be able to win in any situation, but realistically, some characters will just flat out perform better in certain matchups than others. The objective truth is that some characters will just be better in most scenarios than other characters, until some other player comes along and proves otherwise. As much as I'd love to believe that Little Mac has an even matchup against any character in the game, the truth of the matter is that more often than not, Little Mac players are expected to lose because Little Mac's biggest fault, his poor recovery, is easily exploitable. So there are some matches where it may be better for me to play as Ice Climbers than as Little Mac. But even then, the main problem is that I feel like any matchup I play is a losing matchup for me. People will say that Yoshi is already a pretty good character against a fair share of high-ranking top-tier fighters, but I don't know if I feel that way. I've heard people say that Yoshi has a winning matchup against Peach and Ganondorf because Yoshi's aerial attacks are great against them. But then I've also heard that these are Yoshi's worst matchups because they can space out Yoshi and have the power advantage on most of their attacks. So who am I supposed to believe? Well, naturally, I should just play for myself and find out, but usually when I play, my opponents know how to exploit my weaknesses. How close are these matchups? What makes one character slightly more unfavorable than another? Either way, maybe I should get into the mindset of believing that these matchup charts hold weight to them. If they say Cloud is Yoshi's worst matchup, then maybe I should believe it. So yeah, I better learn some character matchups. I've also been told that the best recommendation for me is to alter my controls. Even if it's something basic, just like changing my C stick to being tilt attacks instead of smash attacks. Now, for those that don't know, I alternate between a Nintendo Switch Pro controller and a GameCube controller, and I don't really have a preference between the two. When I use a Pro controller, my controls are slightly different, but the main thing between both of these controllers is that they both have tap jump disabled. Other than that, my controls are pretty basic. So I did try out changing the C-stick to tilt attacks instead of smash attacks, and in particular, Yoshi, Ice Climbers, and Little Mac are all said to benefit from this change. But, and I'm sorry to keep saying but, I found that I didn't quite enjoy playing with this change. I can already whip out my tilt attacks quickly enough as is if I want to use them, and I actually enjoy being able to quickly throw out a smash attack with the C-stick instead. Oddly enough, I've been told that switching the C-stick to perform tilt attacks would have benefited Little Mac the most. I'm already used to using tilt attacks with the good old analog stick and A button, and smash attacks, I don't use them that often, but I like to be able to use them quickly when I do. So for the time being, I've reverted my controls to how they previously were. With that said, I'm still going to keep a tilt attack option in case I change my mind in the future. In addition to character matchups and control changes, I should learn the best stage matchups for each character. Most tournaments have Battlefield, Final Destination, Pokemon Stadium 2, and Smashville as starter stages. Kalos Pokemon League, Unova Pokemon League, Town and City, Castle Siege, WarioWare, and Yoshi's Island have also shown up as selectable stages in tourneys as well. More often than not, when I attend tourneys, most players wish to start at Pokemon Stadium 2, and I guess that the general consensus is that this stage is the most fair out of the starter stages. Characters that benefit from platforms can't really benefit, and characters that benefit from not having platforms can't really benefit either. Now, usually when I play, I try to take advantage of a stage with platforms, as I usually play as Yoshi. The thing is, when I've been picking stages, I've been picking them with the thought process of benefiting my own character. I haven't been picking stages with the intent to hinder my opponents, which I guess is what I should be doing. But I'm learning now that Yoshi's attacks hardly ever outpower an opponent's attack. And thus, if my opponent has a great aerial game, then I'm really just setting myself up for failure. While having a platform can be good, maybe I shouldn't rely on them as much. And of course, the last general piece of advice besides learning character matchups and stage matchups is learning how to psych out my opponents by mixing things up. If I can't read my opponent that well, then I can at least prevent him or her from reading me. In order to better discuss this concept, I'm going to go over Yoshi, Ice Climbers, and Little Mac individually, and I'm going to discuss what I've typically been doing when I'm playing competitive matches. I'm going to try to analyze what I can do to improve, and of course, if any of you have any feedback for my playstyles, please feel free to suggest it. Otherwise, let's start examining these characters. Let's start with my ace, Yoshi. My general understanding of Yoshi is that he's a mobile character with a great aerial moveset. Yoshi's greatest advantages are his flutter jump and his wide range of places to throw his eggs. As such, it's my understanding that Yoshi can be a great character when it comes to juggling his opponents in the air. I've been heavily relying on Yoshi's aerial attacks. They're fast moves that are safe to throw out and can quickly rack up damage, but because I'm constantly using his aerial attacks, players have been able to exploit my double jump and force me to have a difficult time when it comes to recovery. Whenever I needed to recover, I've usually thrown out Yoshi's second jump first, and then I've used my up B to gain some extra height. right. This is quite the predictable pattern that my opponents have clearly countered. Fortunately, I'm able to mix things up a bit. I can actually throw out an egg first and then perform Yoshi's second jump, if need be. For some reason, I just haven't been doing this. So it's simple. The easiest way to mix things up when I'm recovering is to sometimes use the second jump first and sometimes use the second jump second. I've also been experimenting with some more competitive maneuvers, namely a maneuver called B reversing. Plenty of characters can do this B reversing technique. It essentially allows a character to turn around while still attacking while switching the direction of their momentum. Any competitive Yoshi player seems to suggest that B reversing as Yoshi is a must. If used successfully, I can turn Yoshi around and eat an opponent by surprise and then wail on them. But otherwise it makes Yoshi's egg lay attack much more useful, and in some ways it makes it easier to pull off. Less aerial moves, less predictable recovery, more fighting. I guess that's a good way to summarize it. My playstyle with the Ice Climbers needs a lot of work. The Ice Climbers are at their best when they're desynchronized and can knock an opponent into one another's attacks. In other words, they're at their best when they're played as two fighters and not just one. This is often called chain grabbing, and I've watched tutorials and I've just been unable to perform these types of things at all. But I guess I better learn, right? If I don't learn how to do these crazy things with the characters, then have I really learned them at all? Also, I've been relying on their side B attack way too much. I just flat out need to play as the Ice Climbers more. It's weird, they require the most work out of my three main characters, and yet I have the least to say about them. I guess the truth of the matter is that I've hardly actually played them. I just need to learn them more. Less side B, more grabbing, more crazy stuff. Little Mac, similarly to Yoshi, has ways to mix up his recovery. And, much like the way I've been playing as Yoshi, I've been far too predictable with my recovery methods. I've been using Little Mac's second jump first, and then I'll throw out his side B and then his up B. I can instead try to recover from underneath the stage more easily if I throw out Little Mac's side B first, then jump, then use his up B. Mixing this up is the first thing I can try to do to recover more properly. And Little Mac is definitely an up-close brawler. I mean, it makes sense, he's a boxer. I've sometimes tried to mix things up by walking in with Little Mac's up tilt attack, as its hitbox can cover a bit of area behind him, and I've been told that this is a smart thing to do, but a better recommendation is that I should try to walk in with his down tilt attack. While his up tilt attack covers a bit more of an area, his down tilt leads better into follow-up attacks. At least I'd be more likely to land the hit than if I use Little Mac's up tilt first. So that's simple enough. I plan to use Little Mac's down tilt attack more often. I just have to hope that something like this doesn't happen again. So, better recovery options with Yoshi, better optimization with Ice Climbers, and better approaches with Little Mac. This is a very basic way of identifying the flaw of each of my characters, but it's a place to start. And then, just overall, I need to become less predictable, and I need to avoid relying on the same 2 or 3 attacks. I need to practice recovering underneath the stage more frequently, and I need to ensure that I can land on the stage more defensively. All right. These are some things that I plan to do so that I can improve my playstyle in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Once again, if any of you watching this video have any advice or criticism, please feel free to comment down below. I hope to be able to check back at some point in the future and say that I've ranked higher in competitions and that all of this advice played out. I'm gonna learn character matchups and stage matchups, but I need to practice these 3 characters just more and more and learn better and better tactics with them. For now, that wraps up this episode of Road to Sakurai, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all in future videos, and in due time, we'll see what Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and my journey have in store for us. Bye-bye, humans! Whoosh!
Hey everyone! If you enjoyed what you saw and want to see more, be sure to click the subscribe icon underneath the video. Be sure to click on the bell icon to be notified when a new video is out. Also, one of the best ways to support me is to follow me on Twitter. On there, you can see announcements, updates, and previews for all of my upcoming content. My tag is @Yoshiller. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all in future videos. Whoosh!